The husband told his wife to leave the house, but what his ex did to him broke his heart. Mary stood in her large, beautifully decorated living room, a stark contrast to the emptiness she felt inside. The dining table was set immaculately, with elegant plates, gleaming silverware, and a centerpiece of fresh flowers. The ambient lighting cast a warm glow, creating a cozy yet sophisticated atmosphere. Tonight, the room was meant to be filled with laughter and joy, but instead, there was only the quiet hum of the air conditioner and the ticking of the wall clock. She glanced at the clock, her anticipation growing. Her husband, David, was supposed to have been home an hour ago. She had prepared a special dinner for the two of them to celebrate her 35th birthday, hoping this intimate evening would reignite the spark that had faded from their marriage. David was always busy with work, and their time together had become scarce and strained. Tonight, she hoped, would be different. Mary wandered around the room, making sure everything was just right. She adjusted the placement of the wine glasses and straightened the napkins for the third time, trying to calm her nerves. She took a deep breath, smoothing out her dress and pushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The house was silent except for the faint strains of soft jazz playing in the background. She looked at the clock again and sighed. Finally, the sound of the front door opening echoed through the hallway. Mary's heart leaped with a mix of excitement and relief. She moved towards the entrance, expecting to see David's familiar face light up with a smile. Instead, he walked in with a stern, almost detached expression, barely acknowledging the festive atmosphere she had created. Her smile faltered as she sensed the tension. David stepped into the living room and looked around, his eyes scanning the beautifully set table and the warm glow of the candles. Mary felt a cold dread creeping up her spine. Something was off, terribly off. David looked at her, his expression hard and unreadable. "I have something to tell you," he said, his voice void of any emotion. "I've fallen in love with someone else. Her name is Linda, and she's pregnant with my child. I want a divorce, and I need you to leave the house so Linda and I can move in." The room seemed to spin around Mary. She felt the blood drain from her face as she stood frozen, her world shattering in that intimate setting. The soft jazz music and the flickering candlelight faded into the background as she focused on David's cold, unyielding face. In that moment, everything she thought she knew about her life disintegrated. Mary struggled to find her voice, her thoughts a chaotic swirl of disbelief and pain. "David, how could you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. David's expression remained unchanged, his eyes void of any remorse. "I'm sorry, Mary. This is just the way it is. I need you to move out as soon as possible." Mary felt her legs give way, and she sank into a chair, staring blankly at the floor. The noise of her heartbeat pounded in her ears, drowning out the music. All she could hear was David's voice, repeating those devastating words. She felt an overwhelming sense of loss, not just of her husband, but of the life they had built together. In the aftermath of David's devastating announcement, Mary found herself grappling with the harsh reality that had just shattered her world. The once inviting living room felt like a hollow shell, echoing her profound sense of loss and betrayal. The next morning, Mary awoke in a daze, the events of the previous night playing over and over in her mind like a relentless nightmare. Desperate for support, she decided to visit her closest friends, Karen and Thomas. She grabbed her coat and walked out of the house, the cold morning air biting at her cheeks. Arriving at Karen and Thomas's house, Mary rang the doorbell with trembling hands. Karen opened the door, her face etched with concern. "Mary, what happened?" she asked, pulling her friend into a warm embrace. Mary recounted the events of the night before, tears streaming down her face. Thomas listened quietly, his expression serious. "Mary, you have to focus on yourself now," he said gently. "You deserve so much better than this." Through her tears, Mary could see the truth in their words. She had sacrificed so much for her marriage, often putting David's needs and career ahead of her own. And now, in this moment of profound loss, she realized that she had lost herself along the way. Karen squeezed Mary's hand, offering a comforting smile. "Sometimes, losing everything you thought was important is what gives you the chance to find what really matters." Mary nodded, absorbing the wisdom in those words. In losing David, she had the opportunity to rediscover herself, to find her own happiness and fulfillment. And with the support of her friends, she knew she had the strength to face whatever came next. Mary's life took a drastic turn after that fateful evening. She moved out of the spacious house she had once shared with David and found herself in a small, modest apartment on the other side of town. The stark contrast between her old life and her new one was overwhelming, but she knew it was a necessary step towards rebuilding her life. Karen and Thomas were her lifeline during this transition. They were there every step of the way, helping her move, offering emotional support, and encouraging her to take control of her future. Karen, with her nurturing spirit, often invited Mary over for dinner, ensuring she never felt too alone. Thomas, on the other hand, provided practical advice and a shoulder to lean on when the nights felt especially long and lonely. One evening, as they sat around Karen and Thomas's kitchen table, Thomas brought up an idea. "Mary, why don't you come work for my design firm? I know you have a great eye for detail, and I think it could be a fresh start for you." Mary hesitated. She had always enjoyed decorating her home and helping friends with their own spaces, but she had never considered it as a career. "I don't know, Thomas. It's been a while since I've worked, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for something like that." Karen reached across the table and took Mary's hand. "You need something to focus on, something that will remind you of your own strengths and talents. Besides, you've always had a knack for design. This could be your chance to rediscover that part of yourself." With their encouragement, Mary decided to give it a try. She started working at Thomas's design firm, initially feeling out of place and uncertain. However, as the days turned into weeks, she found herself slowly regaining her confidence. She immersed herself in the world of colors, textures, and layouts, rediscovering a passion she had long forgotten. Mary's natural talent for design soon became evident. She had an innate ability to transform spaces, creating environments that were both functional and beautiful. Her colleagues were impressed with her work, and she began to take on more responsibilities and larger projects. Working at the design firm also provided Mary with a sense of purpose and a new routine. She found herself looking forward to each day, eager to tackle new challenges and prove to herself that she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. The support and camaraderie of her coworkers helped her heal, and she started to build a new life for herself, one project at a time. Despite the progress she was making, there were still moments of doubt and sadness. The memories of her life with David would sometimes resurface, bringing with them a wave of pain. But with each passing day, those moments became less frequent, and Mary found herself focusing more on the future than the past. A few months into her new job, Mary had settled into a routine that gave her a sense of stability and purpose. She was beginning to see glimpses of the person she used to be, independent and full of life. Yet, beneath the surface, there remained a lingering sense of uncertainty and residual pain from David's betrayal. One evening, after a particularly fulfilling day at work, Mary decided to visit Karen and Thomas. They had become her second family, providing a constant source of comfort and encouragement. As she walked into their warm and inviting home, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. They sat around the kitchen table, chatting and laughing as they often did. Karen had prepared a delicious meal, and the aroma filled the house, making it feel safe. Just as they were about to dig in, Mary felt a pang of sadness. The warmth and companionship reminded her of the life she once had with David. For a moment, she let herself reminisce about the good times, their laughter, shared dreams, and moments of tenderness. A wave of nostalgia washed over her, and she missed the man he used to be, the life they had shared. But the painful memory of his betrayal quickly overshadowed those fleeting moments of warmth. Karen noticed the change in Mary's expression and reached out to touch her hand. "Mary, are you okay?" Mary forced a smile, pushing the memories aside. "I'm fine, just thinking about how much things have changed." Thomas leaned forward, his eyes filled with concern. "You've come so far, Mary. Don't let the past hold you back. You're building a new life, and it's going to be amazing." Mary nodded, appreciating their support. She knew they were right. Despite the occasional pangs of sadness and nostalgia, she had to keep moving forward, focusing on the future she was creating for herself. As they continued their dinner, Mary felt a renewed sense of determination. She might still be healing, but with friends like Karen and Thomas by her side, she knew she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the weeks that followed, Mary found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. The stability she had begun to build in her new life was frequently disrupted by moments of doubt and lingering pain. Each time she thought she was moving forward, a memory or an unexpected reminder of David would pull her back into the past. One particularly restless night, Mary decided to take a walk to clear her mind. As she wandered the quiet streets, she found herself drawn to a small, charming cafe she had passed by many times but never entered. Needing a break from her thoughts, she stepped inside. The cafe was warm and inviting, with soft lighting and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Mary ordered a cup of tea and found a quiet corner to sit in, hoping the change of scenery would help her sort through her emotions. As she sipped her tea, the door chimed, and a man walked in, accompanied by a young girl. They seemed to share a close bond, laughing and chatting easily. The man, noticing Mary sitting alone, gave her a friendly nod. Mary smiled back, feeling a small flicker of connection. A few minutes later, the man approached her table, the little girl by his side. "Hi, I'm Jack, and this is my daughter, Susan. Mind if we join you? The cafe is quite busy tonight." Mary hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. "Of course, please sit down." As they settled in, the conversation flowed naturally. Jack was kind and easy to talk to, and Susan's infectious laughter brought a smile to Mary's face. She learned that Jack was a single father, dedicated to giving his daughter the best life possible. Throughout the evening, Mary felt a sense of comfort and ease she hadn't experienced in a long time. Jack shared stories about his life, his challenges and joys as a parent, and his dreams for the future. Mary found herself opening up too, sharing bits and pieces of her own journey. As they talked, a new feeling began to take root within her, a sense of possibility. For the first time since her world had been turned upside down, Mary felt a glimmer of hope, a hint that perhaps, amidst all the pain and uncertainty, there could be new connections, new beginnings. When it was time to leave, Jack handed Mary his card. "It was great talking to you, Mary. If you ever want to meet up again, feel free to call." Mary took the card, her heart feeling lighter. "Thank you, Jack. I just might do that." As she walked home, Mary realized that meeting Jack and Susan had been a small but significant step in her journey. She didn't know where it would lead, but she was open to finding out. And with that thought, she felt a renewed sense of strength and optimism for the future. As the weeks turned into months, Mary found herself increasingly drawn to Jack and Susan. Their presence brought a newfound joy and sense of belonging into her life. They met frequently, sometimes for coffee, other times for casual outings to the park or a local museum. Each encounter deepened their bond, and Mary felt a warmth and happiness she hadn't known in years. At work, Mary continued to excel, taking on more significant projects and impressing her colleagues with her creativity and dedication. Thomas, always supportive, encouraged her to push her boundaries, and she found herself thriving in ways she had never imagined possible. Her career was flourishing, but it was the personal connections she was forming that truly filled the void left by David's betrayal. One crisp autumn afternoon, Mary and Jack sat on a bench in the park, watching Susan play with other children. The leaves were turning vibrant shades of red and gold, and the air was filled with the scent of fall. Jack turned to Mary, his expression serious yet gentle. "Mary, I've been thinking a lot about us," he began. "I know we've both been through a lot, but I feel like there's something special between us. I'd like to see where this could go, if you're open to it." Mary's heart skipped a beat. She had grown to care deeply for Jack and Susan, and the thought of building something meaningful with them filled her with hope. Yet, she couldn't ignore the fear that lingered from her past, the uncertainty of opening her heart again. "I feel the same way, Jack," she replied softly, "but it's scary. I've been hurt before, and I don't want to rush into anything without being sure." Jack nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "I know, and I don't want to pressure you. Let's take it one day at a time, see how things unfold. I just want you to know that I'm here for you." and I believe we can build something beautiful together." As they sat in comfortable silence, watching Susan's carefree laughter, Mary felt a sense of peace wash over her. She realized that moving forward with Jack didn't mean forgetting the past. It meant embracing the possibility of a brighter future. Over the next few weeks, Mary and Jack's relationship blossomed. They spent more time together, creating new memories and sharing their lives in ways that felt natural and unforced. Susan adored Mary, and the three of them quickly formed a close-knit unit that brought joy to all their lives. Mary's friends, Karen and Thomas, noticed the positive change in her. During one of their regular dinners, Karen remarked, "Mary, you seem so much happier. It's wonderful to see you like this." Thomas nodded in agreement. "You've come a long way, Mary. We're so proud of you." Mary smiled, feeling the truth of their words. She was happier, more at peace, and finally felt like she was moving towards a future filled with love and possibility. The journey had been difficult, but it had led her to a place where she could truly begin anew. As Mary looked around the table at her friends, she realized that the support and love she had received from them had been instrumental in her healing process. She had learned to trust again, to open her heart, and to embrace the unknown. As Mary and Jack's relationship deepened, they began to weave their lives together more intricately. Their outings became more frequent, turning into family dinners, weekend getaways, and quiet evenings at home. Susan, with her bright eyes and infectious laughter, brought a new level of joy and energy into Mary's life. One sunny Saturday, they decided to take a trip to the countryside, visiting a charming little farm that offered various activities for children. As they wandered through the fields, Mary felt a deep sense of contentment. Watching Susan feed the animals and run freely through the open space made her heart swell with happiness. During a quiet moment, while Susan was occupied with a group of baby goats, Jack turned to Mary. "I've been thinking a lot about us, Mary," he said, his voice gentle. "I want you to know how much you mean to me and Susan. You're a part of our family now." Mary felt a lump in her throat as she looked into Jack's sincere eyes. "You both mean so much to me too," she replied, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've found a happiness with you that I never thought I'd have again." Jack smiled and took her hand. "Let's keep building this together. I believe we have something truly special." Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, but it wasn't just the romantic relationship that flourished. Mary also developed a deep and loving connection with Susan. She found herself playing the role of a mother figure, something she hadn't anticipated but embraced wholeheartedly. One evening, while Mary was helping Susan with her homework, Susan looked up at her with wide, earnest eyes. "Mary, do you think it's okay if I call you Mom someday?" Mary's heart melted at the question. She knelt down to Susan's level and hugged her tightly. "Of course, sweetheart. You can call me whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm just happy to be here with you." This simple yet profound moment solidified the depth of their connection. Mary realized that her journey was not just about finding love again, but also about creating a new family, one built on trust, affection, and mutual support. Meanwhile, at work, Mary continued to excel. She took on a challenging project, a complete redesign of a historical building. The project tested her skills and creativity, pushing her to new heights. With Thomas's guidance and the encouragement of her colleagues, Mary poured her heart into the work, finding a sense of accomplishment and pride in her professional life. Balancing her blossoming personal life with her demanding career wasn't always easy, but Mary found strength in the support system she had built around her. Karen and Thomas remained her steadfast friends, always ready with a listening ear and practical advice. Their unwavering belief in her fueled her determination to succeed. One evening, as Mary and Jack sat on the porch watching the sunset, Jack turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "Mary, I've been offered a new job. It's a great opportunity, but it would mean moving to a new city. I wanted to discuss it with you because whatever I decide, I want us to do it together." Mary felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The prospect of a fresh start in a new city was thrilling, but it also meant leaving behind the life she had begun to rebuild. She looked at Jack, seeing the same hope and uncertainty mirrored in his eyes. "Let's talk about it," she said, reaching for his hand. "Whatever we decide, we'll figure it out together." This decision marked a turning point in their relationship. They spent the following days discussing their options, considering the impact on their careers, Susan's schooling, and their future together. Through these discussions, Mary realized how much she valued the partnership they had built, one based on mutual respect, love, and open communication. In the end, they decided to take the leap and move to the new city. It was a bold step, filled with both excitement and uncertainty, but Mary felt ready to embrace it. She had found a new sense of purpose and a family that filled her with hope and joy. As they packed their belongings and prepared for the move, Mary looked around at the life she was leaving behind and felt a mixture of nostalgia and anticipation. The journey ahead was unknown, but she faced it with a heart full of love and a spirit ready for new adventures. The decision to move marked a significant turning point in Mary's life. The weeks leading up to the move were filled with a whirlwind of activity, packing, farewells, and final preparations. Mary found herself both excited and anxious about the new chapter ahead. She leaned heavily on Jack and Susan, drawing strength from their unwavering support. The day of the move arrived with a mix of emotions. As they drove towards their new city, Mary looked out the window, watching the familiar landscape fade into the distance. She felt a pang of sadness for what she was leaving behind, but also a surge of anticipation for what lay ahead. Their new home was a charming house in a friendly neighborhood. It had a warm, welcoming feel, and Mary immediately began envisioning how she would decorate each room, infusing it with their shared memories and new beginnings. Jack and Susan shared her excitement, and they spent the first few days exploring the neighborhood, meeting new people, and settling into their new routines. A few weeks after the move, Mary began to notice something different. Her period was late, and she had been feeling unusually tired and nauseous. She brushed it off initially, attributing it to the stress of the move. But one morning, after a particularly strong wave of nausea, she decided to take action. "Jack," she said, her voice trembling slightly as she stood in the kitchen, holding her stomach, "can you do me a favor and get a pregnancy test from the pharmacy?" Jack's eyes widened with a mix of surprise and concern. "Of course, Mary. I'll be right back." While Jack was out, Mary paced the living room, her mind racing with possibilities. She glanced at Susan, who was playing happily with her toys, and felt a surge of hope and fear. When Jack returned, he handed her the test with a reassuring smile. Mary took the test into the bathroom, her hands shaking. She followed the instructions carefully, then sat on the edge of the bathtub, waiting for what felt like an eternity. Finally, she dared to look at the result. Positive. Tears filled her eyes as the reality of the situation sank in. She opened the bathroom door to find Jack waiting anxiously. Without a word, she showed him the test. Jack's face broke into a wide smile, and he pulled her into a tight embrace. "We're having a baby," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "I can't believe it." Mary buried her face in his shoulder, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I can't either. But I'm so happy, Jack. So happy." They stood there for a long moment, holding each other and letting the emotions wash over them. Susan, sensing the significance of the moment, ran over and hugged them both. "What's happening?" she asked, looking up at them with wide eyes. Mary knelt down to Susan's level, her heart overflowing with love. "You're going to be a big sister, Susan. We're going to have a baby." Susan's face lit up with excitement. "Really? That's so cool." The news of the pregnancy brought them even closer, and they began planning for the future with renewed enthusiasm. However, amidst the joy, an unexpected phone call disrupted their newfound peace. It was David, his voice filled with regret and desperation as he explained how his life with Linda had fallen apart. Linda was pregnant, but David wasn't the father. So he realized the mistakes he had made. He wanted to see Mary, to talk and possibly reconcile. Mary felt a storm of emotions, anger, confusion, and a faint echo of the love she had once felt. She had moved on, built a new life, and found happiness with Jack and Susan. But David's plea stirred something deep within her, a need for closure and understanding. After much contemplation, Mary agreed to meet David. They chose a quiet cafe in her new city, a neutral ground where they could talk without the weight of their shared past looming over them. When she arrived, she saw David sitting at a corner table, looking older than she remembered. As they sat across from each other, the conversation began awkwardly. David spoke about his regrets, his mistakes, and how he had come to realize the value of what they had shared. He apologized sincerely, tears welling up in his eyes. Mary listened, her own emotions a turbulent mix. "I'm sorry, Mary," David said, his voice breaking. "I was a fool, and I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. I understand if you can't forgive me, but I need to tell you how much I regret everything." Mary took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief as she finally heard the words she had longed for. "David, I appreciate your apology. It means a lot to hear you acknowledge the pain you caused. But I've moved on. I've built a new life, and I'm happy now." David nodded, his expression resigned but understanding. "I just needed you to know. I'm truly sorry." As Mary left the cafe, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. The meeting with David had given her the closure she needed, reaffirming her commitment to her new life with Jack and Susan. She realized that while the past had shaped her, it didn't define her. She was free to embrace the future with an open heart. Returning home, Mary found Jack and Susan waiting for her. She hugged them tightly, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the love and support they had given her. She knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together as a family. With the news of her pregnancy and the closure with David behind her, Mary felt a renewed sense of purpose and optimism. She embraced the upcoming months with enthusiasm, focusing on both her growing family and her career. However, life had a way of throwing unexpected challenges her way, testing her resilience and determination. At work, Mary took on a high-profile project, a complete redesign of a historic building downtown. It was an ambitious endeavor that required her full attention and creativity. Balancing the demands of her job with the preparations for the baby was challenging, but Mary was determined to excel in both areas. Jack was a constant source of support, attending prenatal appointments with her and helping to prepare the nursery. Susan was equally excited, often talking to Mary's growing belly and imagining all the fun she would have as a big sister. Their little family was growing closer with each passing day, and Mary cherished these moments of togetherness. One evening, as Mary was finalizing some design plans at home, she received a text message from David. He wanted to meet again, expressing a desire to reconnect and be a part of the baby's life. The message threw Mary into a whirlwind of emotions. She had just started to feel at peace with her past, and now David was attempting to reinsert himself into her life. Mary discussed the situation with Jack, who listened patiently. "Mary, you need to do what's best for you and our family. If you think it's important to meet him, then you should. But remember, we're in this together." Feeling conflicted, Mary decided to meet David once more, this time in a park near her office. When she saw him, the familiar feelings of betrayal and hurt resurfaced, but she steeled herself, determined to keep the conversation focused on the present and future. David apologized again and expressed his regret for how things had ended between them. He acknowledged the pain he had caused and expressed a desire to make amends. "I know I can't change the past, but I want to be a part of our child's life, Mary. I want to be there for you both, in any way you'll allow." Mary took a deep breath, considering his words. "David, I appreciate your willingness to take responsibility, but I've moved on. Jack and I are building a life together, and we're happy. I need to protect that." She paused, feeling a wave of clarity wash over her. "I forgive you, David, not for your sake, but for mine. Holding on to this anger has been a burden, and I need to let it go. But for the sake of my new life and my family, I need you to stay out of it. Please, disappear from my life and let us move forward in peace." David's face fell, but he nodded slowly. "I understand, Mary. I'm truly sorry for everything. I hope you find happiness." As Mary left the park, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. The meeting with David had given her the finality she needed, and she felt a newfound sense of freedom. She had cut ties with her past and was ready to embrace the future fully. Back at work, the pressure of the historic building project intensified. Unexpected setbacks and tight deadlines tested Mary's patience and problem-solving skills. She found herself working late nights, trying to ensure every detail was perfect. The stress began to take a toll on her, both physically and emotionally. One particularly exhausting evening, as Mary was leaving the office, she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Panic surged through her, and she quickly called Jack, who rushed to take her to the hospital. The hours that followed were tense and filled with worry, but thankfully, the doctor assured them that both Mary and the baby were fine. "You need to take it easy," the doctor advised. "Stress isn't good for either of you." Mary realized she needed to find a better balance. With Jack and Thomas's encouragement, she delegated more responsibilities at work and took time to rest and care for herself. She learned to trust her team, allowing them to share the load, which not only eased her stress but also strengthened the collaborative spirit within the office. As the months progressed, Mary and Jack continued to prepare for the arrival of their baby. They attended childbirth classes, decorated the nursery, and spent quiet evenings dreaming about their future. Susan's excitement grew with each passing day, and she proudly announced to anyone who would listen that she was going to be the best big sister ever. Despite the complications and moments of doubt, Mary felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The journey had been challenging, but it had also been filled with love, growth, and new beginnings. She had faced her past, embraced her present, and looked forward to a future full of promise. As Mary's pregnancy progressed, she found herself more settled into her new life. The nursery was ready, filled with soft colors and whimsical decorations that reflected the joy and anticipation of welcoming a new family member. Jack and Susan were her pillars of support, their excitement infectious and their love unwavering. One crisp winter morning, Mary woke up feeling a distinct sense of calm. It was a rare day off, and the family had planned to spend it together, enjoying the quiet moments before the baby's arrival. Jack had just finished making breakfast when Mary felt a sudden, intense contraction. Her breath hitched, and she grasped the edge of the table for support. "Jack!" she called, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. "I think it's time." Jack's eyes widened, and he immediately sprang into action. "All right, let's get you to the hospital," he said, his voice calm and steady despite the urgency of the situation. Susan, sensing the importance of the moment, stayed close by, her eyes wide with wonder. The drive to the hospital was a blur of emotions and contractions. By the time they arrived, Mary was fully in labor. Jack held her hand through every contraction, whispering words of encouragement and love. Susan stayed with Karen, who had come to support them, her excitement and curiosity keeping her occupied. Hours later, as the sun began to set, the cries of a newborn filled the delivery room. Mary held her baby for the first time, tears of joy streaming down her face. Jack was beside her, his eyes also wet with tears as he gazed at their child, overwhelmed with love and gratitude. "It's a girl," the nurse announced with a smile, placing the tiny bundle in Mary's arms. Mary looked down at her daughter, her heart swelling with an indescribable sense of love and fulfillment. "Hello, little one," she whispered. "Welcome to the world." Jack leaned in, kissing Mary's forehead and then the baby's. "She's perfect, Mary. Just like you." Later, as they settled into their hospital room, Karen brought Susan in to meet her new sister. Susan approached the baby with wide eyes, her face lighting up with awe and delight. "Can I hold her?" she asked eagerly. With Mary's help, Susan gently cradled the baby in her arms, her expression a mix of pride and tenderness. "Hi, I'm your big sister," she whispered, planting a soft kiss on the baby's forehead. The room was filled with a profound sense of peace and happiness. Mary looked around at her family, Jack, Susan, and their new baby girl, and felt a deep, abiding sense of gratitude. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but it had led her to this moment of pure joy. As the days turned into weeks, Mary and Jack settled into their new routine as parents of a newborn. The sleepless nights and endless diaper changes were made easier by the love and support they shared. Susan embraced her role as a big sister with enthusiasm, always eager to help and shower her little sister with affection. Mary's career continued to thrive, thanks to the strong team she had built and the support of Thomas. She learned to balance her professional ambitions with her family life, finding fulfillment in both areas. The historic building project was completed successfully, earning her accolades and reinforcing her confidence in her abilities. One evening, as Mary and Jack sat on the porch, watching the sunset with their daughters, Mary reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She had faced heartbreak and betrayal, but she had also found love, forgiveness, and a renewed sense of purpose. The pain of the past had given way to a future filled with promise and happiness. "I never imagined I'd be this happy," Mary said, leaning against Jack. "Thank you for being my rock." Jack kissed her, his eyes filled with love. "Thank you for letting me. We're in this together, always." As they watched the sun dip below the horizon, Mary felt a profound sense of peace. She had learned that true happiness came from within, from the relationships she had built and the love she had nurtured. Her journey was far from over, but she faced the future with courage and optimism, ready for whatever life had in store. And so, surrounded by her loving family, Mary embraced her new beginning, confident in the strength she had discovered within herself and the unbreakable bonds that held them all together.